There have been numerous calls for a new world order for years. Some have desired the empire to fall. Others have been suggesting a great reset to occur. All the while, the globalist elite take more and more from the middle class as they are distracted and entertained. The question is, how will this actually come about? You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. I've got an interesting video. We're going to get into something that I don't talk about too often and make a whole video about, but certainly I wanted to discuss this. Now, there are two topics here essentially, and these were brought to me by subscribers, and I really wanted to make a video about it because I actually saw it from multiple different angles, and I've been kind of putting it off, but definitely it needs to be discussed. So we'll get into that, absolutely. I want to talk about the US currency. I want to look at currencies in general. I want to talk about what has happened over the years leading up until this point, because you can't just look at a piece of information as it is. You always have to connect the dots, and that's what mainstream media never does, and that's why the general public walks around completely mindlessly. They'll yell and they'll chant and they'll cheer and they'll protest, but they don't understand what goes on underneath it all. They simply believe that somebody else is doing that work. All I have to do is fall in line. Well, generally, this is not a good thing. Of course, when we see that time and time again, the failures will be evident in time. I wanted to begin by looking at this. For many in the West, working from abroad is the new working from home. And we have seen so many changes that have occurred in 2020 with the economy, with the markets, with the intervention in this system. And it just shows us that there has been such a change, and yet it's been such a short period of time, hasn't it? Well, today we're looking at some facts that are really apparent, and it is interesting to see, for example, what we're looking at with all of the robotics, automation, things that have come in that were kind of coming down the line 5 years from now, let's say 10 years from now, and they've been pushed up right to the front of the schedule. Let's get this going, because you lay a bunch of people off. Let's say you furlough, quote unquote, furlough your employees, and then you want to hire them back. You're not going to hire all of them back because you have these things called robo-advisors that you're putting in place instead, and the technology was there kind of, but maybe you're going to do a slow rollout over a period of time. Now you figure might as well just roll the whole thing out and get it to happen. You don't need to hire back all 1,000 advisors. You can simply hire back 800 or 500 or whatever it might be. The same thing goes for the cashiers. The same thing goes for the hotel industry. You are trying to replace to increase profitability and productivity. And this is what the businesses are doing. I'm not saying what's right or wrong or any of that. So of course, these changes put a lot of pressure on the economy as a whole, and then you have the central banks and the government that are trying to be there to fill in their place. Now, this has not worked. Here we are towards the end of 2020. This hasn't worked, but they're going to the next level. I show you this here because the statistics are very clear that in many places we are watching the housing prices increase to levels that are, quote, completely unaffordable. It isn't just an area like Toronto, or maybe you're seeing New York or San Francisco, where even in areas that have come down in price are still completely unaffordable. And this is because of what we've seen in 2020. It really has changed the landscape for many different investments and the economy as a whole. And that leads me to this. The first point I want to make today. I needed to introduce it to you, and here we are. Welcome to 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better. The World Economic Forum posted this, and I just wanted to talk about it for a few minutes. And let's discuss it, and let's make this very casual. When you look at what has been implemented up until this point, we are heading there. Whether we like it or not, this is the way that things are going. If you've watched or read the book Brave New World, this is kind of along those lines. We are in this setting where you don't own anything. You don't buy a CD or a record or a cassette. You don't do that anymore. You stream the music from Spotify or Apple or whatever it might be. You don't even physically own that disc. Now you look at what has happened with different things with privacy. No, they want to get rid of your privacy because you're going to the mall. Well, you're going to get face scanned. Oh, you want to do some shopping online? Well, they're going to put a cookie inside of your computer, and that's going to track where you go when you leave that website. Of course, there are ways to mitigate all of this, but I'm just explaining for the average person, for the majority. They're losing out on so many things that weren't an issue before. We didn't have to deal with that, but as technology advances, this is becoming more prevalent. Now they can tell you that it's there for your own good and it's there to protect you and so on, but ultimately what we see is that it's being taken advantage of. Whether it's in there, let's say, for good reason, and I understand, they want to protect you and whatever it might be, ultimately we see that there are nefarious acts that are taking place. Okay, I'm not necessarily going into the Snowden thing, that's one level of it, but certainly we have seen a whole bunch of different, Cambridge Analytica and so many others that have come out to light that we have seen that they show you. It is very clear that this cannot be protected. All of your things that you deem to be safe and secure really aren't. So we're moving in that direction. Now they don't have to say it as in people are like running down the street celebrating and cheering and chanting, well, great, I have no privacy. No, it doesn't work like that. But the elements that are there are something that people ultimately do love. They think that, well, we can share, we can be together, and I can post all of my everything in my life on the internet, and it's a fantastic thing. If you look people what they ate for lunch, and then they walked to the store, then they went to the bathroom, and everything about that person's life, and it's just, to me, it's crazy. But this has become so commonplace today. And that's part of what I got from Brave New World, of course, that it's celebrated in that it's almost unusual not to be in this place where, let's say, we are now, or perhaps where we were 20 years ago, or what have you. And things have really, really changed rapidly. And that brings me to this. Now is the time for a great reset. And this is just also from the World Economic Forum. And I think it's interesting because they have talked about this previously, and we've seen this multiple times where they discuss a reset. And somebody asked me about this specifically to talk about it. And I just wanted to highlight the fact that we have seen this talk before. You use different names for it. But ultimately, it's nothing more than just the same old. They want global governments. We can use another word for that, government. They want more control, they want less privacy, and they want people to basically have no sovereignty. And they are doing a very good job of it, because while the two sides fight each other, there's something going on behind the scenes. You have the two sides. I don't know how to draw this here, but let's just say you've got these two sides, and they are basically only seeing each other. They cannot see what's going on behind the curtain here, and that's where all business is done. All the nefarious acts are done in the darkness that cannot be seen. But the people, they're just interested in hating this group or that group, or, this is the one that really has the agenda. No, it's that one. They're the ones with the agenda. But it's not like that. It doesn't work like this. The groups have been set up a long time ago, and they've been taking everything this entire time. These globalist elite, these institutions, I've done videos about it before, showing you that there's literally just a handful of corporations that basically control everything in the world. And it's not something that it's secretive or anything. You just got to follow the web. This company is owned by this company. It's owned by that company. And you just follow it. And they have images like this that you can see very easily, infographics that are available online. I know I've done videos about it before. But if you look at that, you see that just a few people in real high positions of power have a lot of control over all of these other corporations and businesses and institutions. And then they interlink with maybe the Council on Foreign Relations, or maybe the Trilateral Commission, or any of these other groups. But if you were to just see at face value, they talk about it like it's just nonsense. And I've tried to highlight this before, and I know that it's difficult to just blurt out in a sentence or two, but I hope I'm making myself clear at least somewhat. The Great Reset, the way that they discuss it, is supposed to be positive for you and for humanity and for the middle class, but ultimately the steps that they put in place is nothing of the sort. It never is. It's always taking more and more, and it's because of this, because they can get away with it. The public is distracted, the public is entertained, and unfortunately there is a non-stop barrage of this that's going on today more than ever. On a positive note, the Great Reset of capitalism is a threat to our way of life, according to this Australian senator, and I thought it was great, Senator Pauline Hanson. I would really like to give some credit to this lady here for even saying it. So that's a good thing. We don't get this often. I'm sure nothing will be done about it anyway, but at least it's good to hear that some people out there don't want to see things like this happen. Now, I don't know all the details. Maybe there's more to it than this, but at least the fact that somebody is saying, no, we don't want this to take place. We don't want that. And there's always resistance. Whether or not that resistance could, it could come in any form. It's always good to have some play back and forth. When we talk about a reset, you have to look at what's going on with the currency. Now, the US dollar, clearly it's in charge. Everything is priced in US dollars. They're the reserve currency. But if you see what has happened previously, there have been more than one currencies that have been the reserve currency. It's not the US dollar is not the first one, right? So you could see that over time things have changed, and they all absolutely will change. You could see this is just something that I'm continuously trying to monitor and bring to you if you've been on the channel for a while. China and Argentina to renew currency swap of $18 billion. It's interesting because there are so many different currency swaps that China is doing, and they get extended. They are always renewing these, always agreeing to new terms, and this just shows you that it's one country that is willing to do business with all of these other countries out there. So many, in fact, names like Canada and names like the UK and so on, they're doing currency swaps with. They are trying to skirt around the United States and their hegemony in every single way. So I think it's interesting to see what will come out of this in the end. Clearly we know where they want to go, but it will be a sight for us to see as it's happening in slow motion. So I just wanted to bring all of that up to you because there certainly are changes that are taking place today, and I'm not really sure how much of it will be positive to the average person because they don't look at the actual truth, at the actual information that's going on. They are simply divided and distracted. If you found this video informative, hit that thumbs up button. If you disagreed with it, if you hated it, you got to give me a thumbs down. If you want to learn about e-commerce, if you are interested in any of the online businesses, well, I have a free e-course for you to check out. It is very much an in-depth course that you can learn a lot from for free, theamazongps.com. The financial system, it's complex and is done like this on purpose to keep you from knowing what's actually going on. I have everything you need to know in these two books. Definitely check it out at the link in the description. If you want the audiobook instead, themoneygps.com. If you want the how-to and solutions, you've got to check this playlist out. There's so much in here, so much detail, many hours, in fact, of videos. So definitely click it. I'll see you there.